With each year that passes, your average K-pop song seems to feature increasing amounts of English, to the point where entire albums by Korean acts are now predominantly English. Whether it be Twice's This Is 4, a huge portion of Blackpink's discography, or even my previous video topic, Dayoung, whose entire solo discography so far has been English-based, it's becoming harder and harder to ignore just how globalized K-pop has become. And listen, this isn't me saying English in K-pop is some brand new evil destroying the industry. K-pop has always incorporated English phrases. Sometimes correctly, sometimes not so much. I mean, second gen was out here saying things like close your lips, shut your tongue. And honestly, that was part of the charm. But there's definitely been a noticeable shift. Nowadays, it feels less like English is being used as an accent or edgy twist, and more like songs are actively being structured around international accessibility first. Hooks are easier to sing along to globally, TikTok clips spread faster, Western radio becomes more viable, and international fans can instantly latch on to key phrases. From a business perspective, it makes complete sense. The problem, or I guess the conversation, starts when fans begin asking, at what point does a K-pop song stop feeling like K-pop? Because while companies are trying harder than ever to expand their dominance in Western markets, there's simultaneously been this growing wave of fans begging for more Korean lyrics, more experimental production, more of the identity that originally made K-pop stand out from Western pop in the first place. And then, in comes K-pop rookie Trisha Paytas, seemingly ready to give the people exactly what they've been asking for. That is not a sentence I expected to say in the year 2026, but here we are. Hey guys, today we're going to be covering a hot release. On May 18th, 2026, Trisha Paytas officially made her K-pop debut with Saranghae, I Love You. And to say this caught people so off guard would be the understatement of the century. Because to be fair, Trisha technically has one of the most extensive quote-unquote pre-debut careers imaginable. Music? Check. Performance background? Check. Internet notoriety? Unfortunately, check. This woman has been online singing, dancing, acting, crying on kitchen floors, and driving to fast food restaurants and reinventing herself since the late 2000s. In terms of entertainment experience, she arguably has more years in the industry than some actual idols have been alive. So the real question wasn't whether she could perform, the question was, could she make something that actually felt like K-pop? Would she miss the language, the aesthetic, the production style, the training system? Or is K-pop now such a globalized concept that somebody, like Trisha, can realistically slide into the genre space and not feel completely out of place? Honestly, after listening to it, I have thoughts. The song itself explores themes of romance, affection, longing, and nostalgia through a restless, deeply in love narrative perspective. From the very first verse, the tone is almost overwhelmingly sincere, singing, quote, I can't fall asleep because I'm thinking of you. Your scent lingers in the wind and my heart just races toward it. The narrator immediately establishes this dreamy obsession with their love interest. There's this dramatic emotional earnestness to the lyrics that honestly feels very aligned with older K-pop love songs. And personally, I think that sincerity is part of why the song works. Because despite the memes surrounding this release, the song itself never really feels ironic. It doesn't feel like a parody or caricature of the genre. It feels surprisingly genuine, like something she could have realistically released in English. During the pre-chorus, she doubles down on these emotions singing, I love you, I love you. Even if I say it 10 million times, my feelings are engraved deeply in my heart as the infinite universe, because you are the only one for me. Which, first of all, what in the OST? Somebody get this woman into a K-drama album immediately. The chorus continues this unwavering devotion, describing a love that won't fade even as time slips away. She tells this person that no matter how long the night lasts, they are the beautiful conclusion to every single day. And honestly, the imagery throughout the rest of the song is surprisingly sweet. There's this constant emphasis on warmth, the nighttime, lingering emotions, and finding comfort in another person's presence. Even the bridge strips things back emotionally, singing, as long as I have you right here, I wouldn't be afraid to walk with you to the very end of the world. The song shifts from surface level romance into something more emotionally dependent and intimate. Dramatic? Yes, but also kind of wholesome. During the final chorus, the emotions practically explode outward. She sings, even after this long night finally passes, and even through the tears, I will love you 1,000 times. I can't escape this feeling. I Will Always Love You. It's theatrical and melodramatic, it's emotional in a way that feels very spiritually aligned with classic K-pop songwriting and who Trisha is as a person. Then, the outro comes in with the repeated stars, 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 I love the beautiful way you look at me, you bring a smile to my face all day long. Almost like the ending theme to a 2011 romance drama montage, and somehow, it works. Sonically, the track is a bright, bubbly synth-pop song that recreates the nostalgic atmosphere of early 2010s K-pop. Personally, this is where things get really interesting, because rather than chasing current trends, the song deliberately leans into a classic second-gen inspired formula. Bright electronic synth, simple melodic progression, emotional hooks, a clean 4-on-the-floor beat. There's no aggressive bass drop halfway through, no random beat switch, no forced rap verse parachuting into the middle of the song like a jump scare. Instead, the production feels cohesive and linear in a way that older K-pop often did. The instrumental gives her vocals room to breathe instead of drowning them in distortion or layered production gimmicks. The chorus is melodic and emotionally direct, the pacing feels nostalgic without being overly dated, and the overall structure strongly channels groups like Girls' Generation, Kara, or Orange Caramel with that bright, hyper-melodic bubblegum pop era where songs felt unapologetically catchy and emotionally sincere. Ironically, by trying to imitate older K-pop so directly, the song accidentally highlights how different modern K-pop has become. Because if Saranghae had been released in 2011 under some mid-tier girl group, I genuinely don't think people would question whether it counted as K-pop. But because it's Trisha Paytas in 2026, this song made me think a lot about the current state of the industry and fandoms as a whole. Because all jokes aside, the song is actually pretty okay. It's catchy, surprisingly wholesome, and genuinely feels like it was made with affection for the genre instead of mockery toward it. Even though Trisha herself doesn't speak Korean, many Korean netizens pointed out that the pronunciation is actually decent. Add on to that the fact that she said the inspiration behind making a K-pop song came from her daughters being fans of the genre, and suddenly, this stops feeling like a cynical cash grab and starts feeling more like an oddly sincere love letter to an era of K-pop. Thus, leading me to the second half of this conversation. Because if a song made by an American influencer can feel more K-pop to some than actual modern K-pop songs, then we really need to ask ourselves, what actually makes a song K-pop anymore? The Americanization of K-pop. Like I mentioned in the intro, it feels like every single year K-pop songs are becoming more and more English heavy to the point where sometimes the K in K-pop feels almost decorative. This isn't me turning into one of those K-pop died in second gen people. And again, I'm not saying English in K-pop is inherently bad, but there's definitely been a shift. And frankly, I think this release from Trisha Paytas accidentally opens up a much bigger conversation that fans have been having for years now. Because we suddenly have this weird reverse scenario where an American influencer who doesn't even speak Korean released a song that many people are saying feels more K-pop than some actual K-pop releases. Which raises the question, what actually makes a K-pop song? Is it the nationality of the artist, the language, the production style, the visuals, the training system, the marketing, or is it some strange combination of all of these things together? Because if we're being fully honest, the answer isn't as straightforward as people pretend it is. For example, let's start with language. A lot of fans argue that Korean lyrics are what make K-pop K-pop, and to an extent, I understand that argument. Language is one of the clearest cultural markers. It's literally the K in K-pop. But if language alone determined genre identity, then what exactly do we call all these fully English K-pop songs? You have entire albums now that are predominantly English. Like I mentioned, Twice released This Is 4, a huge chunk of Blackpink's discography leans heavily English. Even groups marketed primarily in Korea are increasingly structuring songs around English hooks because they're easier to clip and easier for global audiences to sing along to. But this isn't by accident. K-pop companies realized a long time ago that the international audience is no longer secondary, it's central. These companies want Western charting, festivals, Western streams, and virality, so naturally, the music started shifting to accommodate that. But then, if the language changes, yet fans still consider it K-pop, clearly language alone isn't the deciding factor. So maybe it's the nationality of the artist? Well, that falls apart pretty quickly too. Because K-pop has become increasingly globalized, there are Thai idols, Chinese idols, Japanese idols, Taiwanese idols, Australian idols, Canadian idols, American idols. At this point, the concept of being a K-pop group and a global group are being blurred, and yet fans still consider those groups K-pop because they exist within the Korean idol system, which then brings us to another possibility. Maybe K-pop is less about ethnicity or language and more about industry structure. Personally, I think that's the closest we'll get to an all-encompassing answer. K-pop isn't just a music genre anymore. It's an entertainment framework. It's the trainee system, the comeback cycles, the focus on choreography and visual branding, the parasocial fan culture, the concept changes, photo cards, fan calls, music show promotions. That's why a song can sonically sound very Western while still feeling undeniably K-pop, because people aren't just consuming the song, they're consuming the idol package surrounding it. But even then, production style still matters. Because if you listen to Saranghae, one of the reasons people instantly identified it as K-pop coded is because of its language, yes, but also how it intentionally replicates the sonic structure of second-gen K-pop. It all taps into a very specific era and style associated with Korean pop music as a whole. Like I said, in trying to emulate older K-pop, the song highlights just how much K-pop has changed. Current K-pop releases sound almost indistinguishable from Western TikTok pop songs with occasional Korean lyrics sprinkled in. Again, I'm not saying that's automatically bad. Genres can evolve, industries globalize, music changes. That's all normal. But I do think there's a growing tension within the K-pop fandom between globalization and cultural identity. Because on one side, fans want their favorite groups to succeed internationally. They want bigger tours, bigger sales, bigger opportunities, Grammy recognition, Western validation, all of that. But on the other hand, some fans also fear that in chasing that success, companies are sanding away the distinct qualities that made K-pop feel unique in the first place. Quite frankly, I don't think those fears are entirely unfounded. Part of what made K-pop explode globally was that it felt different. The maximalism, the genre switching, the theatrical concepts, the intense visual commitment. It wasn't trying to be American pop. It was doing its own thing. But now, it almost feels like the industry is circling back around, trying to become westernized after the uniqueness was the very thing that made it stand out globally. Which is why I think this whole Trisha situation is so fascinating. Because unintentionally, she kind of exposed how much K-pop has become an aesthetic and structural identity rather than simply a language category. I can't stress this enough. This woman who does not speak Korean made a song heavily inspired by the sonic identity of older K-pop, promoted it visually like a K-pop release, leaned into the emotional earnestness associated with the genre, and suddenly people are debating whether it counts. I wouldn't be surprised if she came out with photo cards tomorrow. But I think that debate alone proves how blurry the lines have become. And I think that's where groups like KATSEYE and Girlset complicate the conversation even further. Yes, I'm sorry, I'm bringing them back up. Because technically, neither of them really fit the traditional image people have of K-pop. Their music is primarily in English, their marketing strategies lean heavily Western, their social media presence, branding, and even songwriting structures often feel closer to American pop than what many people would associate with classic Korean idol music. Yet despite all of that, a huge portion of the internet still categorizes them under the K-pop umbrella. Why? I think part of it comes down to the system itself. K-pop has evolved beyond just pop music sung in Korean, hence this entire video. At this point, it's an industry model, with its trainee system and all the bells and whistles we've talked about. Groups like KATSEYE were literally created through a K-pop style training and development process under Hybex Geffen. Even if the final product sounds Western, the framework behind it still feels deeply rooted in K-pop culture. And if we're being real, a lot of modern K-pop already sounds Western. K-pop has always borrowed globally. Second gen pulled heavily from Eurodance and American R&B, third gen leaned into tropical house and trap, fourth gen and fifth gen are just filled with Jersey Club, UK garage, hyperpop, Afrobeats, drum and bass, and Western pop songwriting camps. So when people say groups like Girlset or KATSEYE don't sound like K-pop, I kind of understand the sentiment, but I also think it ignores the fact that K-pop has never been sonically isolated. The genre has always been a melting pot. What makes this even more interesting is that fans will sometimes reject songs from actual Korean groups for sounding too Western, while simultaneously embracing Western groups trained under the idol system as K-pop adjacent. That contradiction kind of proves the point that K-pop isn't defined by language alone anymore. If it was, then an English-heavy album by Twice or Blackpink suddenly wouldn't count as K-pop either, which obviously most fans wouldn't agree with. Personally, I think K-pop has become more of a format than a language, ultimately becoming a mixture of all these factors together. The industry system, production style, visual presentation, performance aspect, general rollout, and yes, Korean cultural influence. Some elements matter more than others depending on the specific release, but I also think fans sometimes overfocus on language specifically because it's the easiest difference to identify immediately. Because if we stripped away the Korean lyrics from many modern K-pop songs, would they still sound distinctly K-pop? Some absolutely would, others maybe not. And because of that, groups like KATSEYE and Girlset absolutely make sense existing in the conversation, even if they don't fully sound like traditional Korean idol groups. They still operate within the culture, structure, and expectations of the K-pop industry. The difference is they're pushing it into a more globalized direction, for better or worse. It's also what allows someone like Trisha Paytas to be able to emulate the genre without having really any prior experience in the K-pop industry or its training system. Now, whether that globalization is a good thing, that's a whole different discussion. Because while expanding internationally can bring more diversity and opportunities, I also understand why some fans feel like something is being lost in the process. When every song starts chasing Western radio trends or TikTok virality, people naturally start wondering where the line between global pop and K-pop exists anymore. And honestly, I don't know if there's even a clear answer. But that's where I'll leave it for today. Did I need to look so deep into what's probably a one-time dip into the K-pop pool from Trisha Paytas? Absolutely not. But I feel like the conversation this brings is one we should have. I've wanted to do a video like this for a while, and my shock at this release was just the push I needed to bite the bullet. I mean, it's literally charting in the US and in Korean charts, like what? But hopefully you guys enjoyed my quite long-winded over-analysis. Also, today's original video got pushed back to make room for this one, so expect a Kepler video in the coming days. So thank you guys so very much for watching. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Click that bell icon so you're notified every time I post a video. Tell me in the comments down below, did you like the song? And do you agree with the way the K-pop industry seems to be moving in? Remember that I love you all so much, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Bye!